Hello, this is Cathy Cassidy here for another Sunday book club, and today I'm going to start off with some shout outs as usual. So shout outs today are for Nathini, Jordain, Alekia, Zara, Francesca, Michelle, Gayashri, Wajiha, who's tuning in from Bangladesh, Stardate and Sophie, Erin, Eliane, Nicole, Amelie, Inaya, Bonnet Angel, and many, many more. I do miss quite a few of the comments if they're not actually on the YouTube channel page, but all of those comments and all of that support means a lot to me, so thank you. I have had a bit of a mixed week. Very strange. Last night we had a really weird thing. We had a power cut in our little area of the Welsh town where I live, which meant that our burglar alarm went off in the middle of the night and wouldn't stop because there was no electric to switch it off. So that was very annoying. It meant several hours of being awake when I'd much rather have been asleep, and creeping around the house by candlelight. And I even took the dog for a walk around the block to see which of the neighbours had lost their power supply as well. But it all got sorted out and all is good. And as you can see from the fairy lights to my side, all of the electricity is safely back. So that's good. And it's not the only good thing that happened this week. There were a few things that really made me smile. There was a little parcel full of 6 tiny little letters from a friend in Liverpool, which was lovely. And another thing that was Liverpool linked, because my daughter's been stranded in Liverpool because of the sudden lockdown just after New Year, and she's been staying with her brother, and she was looking out of the window this week and saw a parade of about 4 or 5 ponies walking along their little terraced street. And the ponies were going house to house and people were coming out and looking at the ponies. And it was really one of the loveliest, most heartwarming things that I could think of, that must have cheered so many people during our strict British lockdown. And these ponies belong to a little urban riding school called Park Palace Ponies. And if anyone in the UK who wants to go and give their Facebook page a like, Park Palace Ponies are awesome. And if you're in Liverpool, particularly South Liverpool, maybe get involved and see what you can do, because they not only teach riding in an inner city area, but they also do this fantastic kind of outreach work, helping the community, which is just so lovely. I know a lot of you had fun on Valentine's Day too. And another little story that made me smile was my son and his girlfriend made donuts for Valentine's Day, which I thought was quite a cool thing to do, with all sorts of different fillings. And they asked any of their friends living locally whether they would like some. And so they ended up making donuts to order and doing little socially distanced drop-offs on people's doorsteps, which was a lovely Valentine's kind of thought. So maybe you guys can comment and tell me the nice happy making things that your week has brought. So I think that would be great. And I know a lot of you also love the idea of taking something up for Lent, which I think is awesome. And I think hope and kindness will be the things I'd like to take up, and making the effort to stay connected to other people, the people we care about, especially at a time when we have no choice but to be apart. So I did have a question from Zara this week, and she wanted to know my tips for becoming a good writer. And there is actually, Zara, if you email me, perhaps I can send you a link to my little video on tips for writers. It's actually on this YouTube channel, so anyone who wants to find it, if you hunt through the YouTube channel, you should be able to track it down. But in a nutshell, I would say read a lot, read everything you can get your hands on, and write, obviously write every day, not just when school tells you to, and not just the things that school tells you to write. If you're a student or still at school, write because you need to write, because you want to write in your own time, and write about what you really care about, because that passion will definitely show in your work. So I promised last week that I was going to read you a little wintry story. And the story I'm going to read you out, it's a little photocopy, but it comes from Jackie magazine in the days when I was no longer working there as as a fiction editor, but when I left, I began selling lots of short stories to the magazine. I can show you the little photocopy artwork for this story, and it's called Stormy Weather, and it's quite a wintry story, so I thought it might fit at the moment because it's blowing a hoolie out there where I live, and winter definitely is still here in force. So this one also a bit of a romance, so it's not too long after Valentine's Day. Let's see if it fits well. So here we go. Stormy Weather. I'm through with Paul Miller. Okay, his name still makes my toes curl, and the thought of him makes my heart flip over. But that doesn't mean he's important to me, not now. Besides, you'd have to be made of stone not to feel a tremor at the sight of Paul Miller's sad, soft eyes half hidden behind a tangled, sandy fringe. He's 17 years old with sulky, kissable lips and legs that go on for ever and ever, the kind of boy who ought to carry a government health warning stitched into the seams of his ripped jeans. Paul Miller can damage your health, the warning would say, and it wouldn't be wrong. I know, and that's why we're through. It's over, kaput, finished, and I wouldn't even be sad about it if it wasn't for the fact that Paul Miller and I never really got started in the first place. That's the whole trouble, really. The day I first saw Paul Miller, I fell in love. I walked into the High Street cafe to buy a Coke, and he was there behind the counter, a vision of loveliness in a Doors t-shirt and an apron, fish slice in hand. I ended up forking out for 3 cappuccinos in a row so I could sit in a corner and gaze at him, but Paul Miller didn't even notice I was there. That was the beginning. I did some detective work. My spies told me that Paul was a student at the sixth form college near our school. He was just dishing out the donuts as a holiday job to tide him through. He liked to read deep, meaningful books by people with names like Jean-Paul Sartre, and he listened to weird and wonderful 60s bands I'd never even heard of. He hated spiders, washing up, and cabbage, and he'd been vegetarian for a whole year since watching a TV programme on factory farming. Sensitive, you see, as well as sexy. I knew Paul Miller was the boy for me. It was just a matter of convincing him of that. I gave it my best try. I ate my last ever sausage roll on the 27th of July, bought a packet of veggie burger mix and dug out my old badges that wanted to save the seal, the ozone layer and the Amazonian rainforest. Next, I swatted up on 60s music and discovered I actually liked some of it. Okay, so bands like the Doors and the Rolling Stones are practically cashing their pensions right now, but they'd been pretty cool in the day. Wild, even. I bought a pair of 60s mirrored shades and invested in a Doors tape for my Walkman and hung out at the cafe. Wearing 60s shades indoors is not easy. I spent most of the summer in a kind of haze, tipping cappuccino over my shoes and sprinkling sugar on my chips by mistake, and all in front of the boy of my dreams. I worried he'd think I was a complete idiot, but then again, you can't think that about someone when they don't even know you exist. I got used to bumping into things. One day I even bumped into a 5th-year lad from school. Mark didn't seem to have any trouble noticing I was there. He fed me donuts and coffee and chatted me up while I gave Paul Miller sidelong glances to see if he was jealous. Some chance. He was buttering bread and grating cheese, humming some ancient jangly tune, and he didn't even glance up when Mark took my hand across the table and asked me out. Hopeless. Mark was a nice enough boy, but he had one fatal flaw. He wasn't Paul Miller. I couldn't go out with him, not when I knew that fate had my name down for a lanky boy with wild sandy hair and faraway eyes. Summer was almost over by then, though, and I was getting kind of discouraged. Maybe he already has a girlfriend, I said to my best mate Kelly. I might as well accept it. He's not interested in me. She rolled her eyes. Nope, she told me. His cousin was very definite about that. He has dates, but face it, Joe, he's just too peculiar for most girls. That's why you're so perfect for each other. I frowned, unsure which slur to respond to first. Paul Miller, peculiar? And me? Don't argue, Kelly snapped. You're made for each other. Why else? Who else would actually put up with those hippy-dippy bands he likes? Who else would give up Big Macs in favour of lentil cutlets? And don't kid yourself, Joe. Most lads would run a mile if they saw your rainbow-painted toenails or watched you eating a peanut butter and banana butty. I sighed. If we're made for each other, how come he hasn't caught on? Maybe he's short-sighted and too vain to wear his specs, Kelly suggested. I laughed, but I had a strong suspicion Paul Miller had perfect eyesight. After all, he had perfect everything else. No, I admitted, I might as well get real. I've had all summer to impress him, and Paul Miller doesn't even know I'm alive. Kelly's eyes glinted. Yet, she said. The school term started up again. Paul Miller packed his cafe job in to go back to college, and Kelly and I gave it one last shot. She came round to my house with a carrier bag full of eyeliner and lippy and a suitcase full of classy frocks. I set up Kelly's curling tongs and crimpers amidst the toy pig collection on my dressing table and allowed her to ransack my wardrobe, outlawing anything too old, too baggy, too me. Together we wrangled a series of tickets to sixth form college parties, and I got to gaze at Paul Miller across a dark and crowded room. I got to hope. I wore my hair up. I wore it down. I tried it curly. I tried it crimped. I went from the doe-eyed 1960s look to the vampy red-lipped siren in weeks. I wore classy grown-up dresses, studenty jeans, 60s minis. I tried being chatty, lively, the life and soul, then cool and mysterious. Did he notice me? He did not. Once, just once, he stood on my toe in a crowd of people dancing. I looked up at him from behind ringlet curls, scarlet lips trembling because I'd never been so close to him before. Our eyes met just for a moment, and an unspoken message seemed to pass between us. Then he spoke. "Sorry, kid," he said. That's when I realised I was invisible. I hung up my curling tongs. Kelly was reunited with her dresses, her makeup, her spooky electrical devices for doing things to your hair. She listened solemnly while I told her I was through with Paul Miller, that I'd finally faced up to the truth. She's a good mate, Kelly. She didn't argue when I told her I didn't care about him anymore, when I told her I was glad. She just made me hot coffee and took a couple of whisper bars from the fridge, and we pigged out together. It's 2 months since then, and apart from an expensive chocolate habit to keep up, I am over Paul Miller. I've stopped hoping he'll turn up on the doorstep with an armful of liberated tulips, that he'll wait outside the school gates someday when I've just had double maths and offer to lend me his Doors LP. I don't even regret it, not really. Loving Paul Miller cost me a few sleepless nights, some low marks from school, a whole identity crisis when he didn't even notice my existence, but none of that matters now. I'm back to being myself, to pleasing just me, and I'm happy, almost. Some of the time. It's only occasionally when the fridge is bare of whisper bars and I've got no homework to fill up the evenings that I think of Paul, and I feel a bit lonely. Times when not even a peanut butter and banana butty will take away the pain. I look across at the clock, but it's past 6 and the corner shop will be closed. I could forget about chocolate and snuggle up in front of the telly, watch stupid game shows all night and stroke the cat, or I could give in and head for the all-night garage or the cafe where Paul used to work in search of whisper bars. My willpower has never been up to much. I grab Dad's scruffy gardening sweater instead of a coat and head off along the road. I look a mess, but that doesn't matter these days. My black velvet hat is pulled down over flyaway hair. My tie-dye leggings are baggy at the knee. I'm trying to revive the bin bag of reject clothes Kelly pruned from my wardrobe months ago, and it's great to be comfy again, be me again. I don't care if I never see another curling tong as long as I live. The sky gets blacker as I turn into the high street, and it looks like the snow cloud that's threatened all week is about to tip its contents all over me. My look's been pretty much that way lately. I duck into the cafe just as the first flakes start to fall, clinging like crystal stars to the brim of my hat, the bobbly wool of Dad's sweater. The cafe's empty, but it's warm at least, and I scoop up a whisper bar from the counter and wonder if I can make it home before the storm breaks. Then I see him behind the till, the person I'm pretending I don't care about. I'd like to turn round and head right out of the door. I'd like to hide, run, escape. But I'm already at the till, and Paul Miller's already ringing up the price of my chocolate. Looks like the snow's finally arrived, he says, grinning. Yeah. It's never happened before, except for the time he squashed my toes. Paul Miller and me, talking. Once I had a million clever things rehearsed to use on just such an occasion, but today I can't think of a thing. I knock off in a few minutes, he says. Looks like I'm going to get stuck right in the middle of it. I look at him from under my hat brim, and he's smiling at me, really smiling. You better hang on a few minutes, see if it passes over, he suggests. You'll freeze to death out there without a coat. I look into his eyes and I realise that he's seeing me for the first time. He doesn't seem to mind the velvet hat, the baggy leggings, the sweater that comes practically to my knees. He looks interested, I know he does, and even when I turn my face away, I can feel his gaze still. I sit on a high stool by the counter, watching the snow fall, faster and faster. I can't stop my lips from smiling, can't stop my heart from thumping. I don't even care. Paul Miller unties his apron and hangs it up, and a woman bustles through from the back to take over at the till. She thanks Paul for filling in at such short notice, wishes us a safe journey home, and then we're huddled in the doorway, shivering but laughing too. This is wild, Paul grins as his sandy fringe frosts over. Should we order coffees, wait for it to ease off? Do we have a choice? Sure we do. Paul Miller grabs my hand and we plunge into the snow, talking all at once about what direction to head for, what to do when we get there. I know without asking, without hoping, that Paul will come in when we get to my house, that we'll drink coffee and listen to records and slowly find out about each other. There's plenty of time up ahead to talk about 60s bands, carrot cake and saving the whale. Right now we're sharing a whisper bar in a blizzard, me and Paul Miller. His arm is curled around my shoulder like the storm, against the storm, but it feels like it really belongs there. We're skidding along slightly on the icing sugar snow as we talk. It's funny really, but the last 6 months seem to fade away, like they never existed. All that energy, all that effort going nowhere, except that I was right somehow all along. I just didn't realise it would take a blizzard, a whisper bar and my dad's gardening sweater to bring us together. What's the joke? Paul wants to know, but I bury my face in his shoulder and we carry on, snowflakes and excitement stinging our cheeks pink. You're crazy, Paul grins. This whole thing is crazy. How come we've never met before, anyhow? I know I'd have remembered. We turn the corner into my street and the storm lets up a little, drifting white flakes across our path like stars. It's amazing. All this time we've lived so close, yet I've never even seen you before. No, Paul, I tell him. I guess you never have. So there you go. That was my short story, and I think that was probably published at the end of the 1980s. And if you listen to it, you can see it's, definitely dated, talking about cassette tapes and tie-dyed leggings and all that kind of thing. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. We have a very dramatic week ahead with this book, Sunday Girl. So if you've been following the chapters, do tune in on Monday. Next week is kind of non-stop drama. Buckle up and be prepared for surprises and twists and high drama, because there are just 2 weeks of story left. So yeah, we're building up to a dramatic end. Take care, and I will see you on Monday. And if not, I'll see you next week for another Sunday Book Club. Bye-bye.